I don't know if you've seen, you can look it up if you want. It's insane. People would go inside the banks with guns. They would literally rob themselves. They would go with banks and ask for their own money.
Oh! Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. So if you're brand new to Bitcoin, we want to chat about those sats with you. Head to satchats.com to grab your slot in the studio today. I'm your host, Stuart, Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from my Bitcoin laser eyes.
And I'm Chris, co-host, a.k.a. Silent Bob, a.k.a. the Wolf of Chickpeas. It depends on who you're talking. Silent Bob? Really? Who's calling me that now? Anyway, co-host, founder, CEO of Ithaca Hummus, smash buyer. Whatever you're doing, stop. Smash buy subscriptions to Sat Chats. They're free. They're free. You don't even have to buy them. You just smash the subscribe button.
Boom. That's it. And what do you get in exchange for a single tap or click while you're thinking about it?
You could win 1 million sats.
1 million Satoshi Nakamotos.
Million sats. Enter to win if you are one of our first 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We'll also open up a live show on Friday morning. Once we cross that 1,000 subscriber threshold, we're on the way to number 99, the beloved Kristen. We'd love to do that live. If you know what I'm talking about, tell somebody to subscribe.
Yeah. Get it all unlocked for us. We are ready to be unleashed live upon the world. So today in the studio, we have got Michel, who is coming to us from Beirut. He has got himself a Bitcoin story and even works in the industry, which is quite juicy. Before we tuck into his story, Michel, maybe you can help our satillionaires out there listening and watching get to know you a little bit better.
With pleasure. Very happy to be with you guys. So my story is a very simple one, I suppose. I am born and raised in Beirut. At around 35 years old, I decided to move to Canada. I lived in Montreal for almost a decade for reasons that we might maybe talk about during the show. And I have very recently moved back to Lebanon, despite most people trying to leave. Kind of I'm swimming against the current and moved back to Lebanon. That's pretty much it. I've worked in project management, construction. I've worked in credit, commercial credit. So working with businesses and figuring out loans to them so they can realize their projects and grow. And I think around that time is when I worked in commercial credit, when I really started to think of the hypocrisy of money and of the money system we live in. So yeah, that's my story in a couple of minutes.
First of all, I love how international Sat Chats is. I just love that if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see this absolutely glorious view behind Michel on his video. And of course, I love having people in the studio, but it's just so cool that we get to talk to people around the world.
It really is.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I want to go to Beirut.
So do I, man. I mean, tell us what it's like in Beirut right now. I mean, I just, as a selfish question, I'm curious. How is it there?
Yeah, it is hard to kind of really describe. So because Lebanon is a very small country in the Middle East, which has always been at the same time a problematic region because of, if I may say, the US foreign policy. And at the same time, like, it's the cradle of all three monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. So it is a fascinating place culturally, historically. And Lebanon always kind of prided itself on being, let's say, a more open Arab country compared to maybe more strict or rigid thinking, let's say, Saudi Arabia. So in Lebanon, you will see a very nice mix of, say, if you go to a mall, a mix of maybe a woman with a veil or a full-on like veil walking next to a woman wearing a miniskirt with, it's kind of a cultural shock, but it's not a shock because it's always been this way. I think it's more of a shock for people who visit, because they're not used to, maybe they're not expecting to see that. But as a summary, Lebanon is a mix of everything: modernism, culture. Um, like, it's a country that has suffered a lot because of the fiat system. There's been multiple devaluations of our currency. Um, and yeah, definitely coming from Lebanon and witnessing that has been a huge boost, I suppose, to my Bitcoin journey.
Well, I mean, I just first of all, I know Beirut is like one of the most beautiful places, from a geographic perspective. Really want to visit, and let me see here. I took a picture. No, I didn't save it. There was some meme that I saw, and I want to get your reaction to this. That was the essence was the fiat system created an environment where the US can just print as much money as they want to fund as much conquest. They can basically just get into whatever they want to get into, for lack of a better term, and maybe even building off of something that you had insinuated earlier. What does anybody else have a comment on that? Is this not the show for that?
Do we like totally are we the world's villains, Michel?
Well, no,
You know what I
no,
mean?
wait, hold on. Not for no. The better question for this show
Okay.
is, does fiat enable a global superpower like the US is right now to become the world's villain if
Okay.
it so chooses to do so?
For sure. And like, I when I talk about Bitcoin and try to orange pill friends or family, I always ask them, how do you think wars used to end 4, 5, 600 years ago? Kings would run out of gold and they could not
They run out of money.
fund, yeah, of sound money, of money that they could not create infinite amounts of. And so they either had to retreat, strike a deal, or yeah, I think that's it: either win, lose, or negotiate. And so unfortunately, since fiat money is made out of nowhere, and there is an incentive, like, war is extremely profitable to some people, right? So there is an incentive to keep on burdening US citizen uh, by devaluating their money, and also the money also burdening everyone else on the planet who uses the US dollar, um, for the enrichment of a very few number of people. And that creates a lot of yeah, a lot of I mean, the word sadness is not strong enough to describe, right? But it also creates a lots of immigration. It's normal that people who live in these countries would want to leave and maybe try to go to Europe, try to go to the States or anywhere else for better opportunities. and and immigration is a very complicated matter as well, and a very delicate as well. But people who complain that there's too many immigrants where they live, a very easy way to stop that flux is just to stop bombing these countries, and so people will just hang out where they're born and when they live. And so yeah, it's, and I don't want to sound like I'm like I love the US, I love American people, I have lots of American friends. The government is one thing and people are another thing. It's the same in every country. It could have been the US, it could have been the UK empire before. Like it's definitely having a monopoly of the fiat world currency uh, can bring a lot of destruction to other people, but also at the same time it does destruct the value of that currency. There's been lots of talk lately about Luke Groman, Lynn Alden, all these very smart people, how they talk about how what is the heavy is the burden of the nation who has the world reserve currency, because they have to devaluate it. So that, anyway, it's far beyond my pay grade, but a great way to start.
So you mentioned being exposed to all this kind of fiat nastiness when you were working in that credit space or company credit space. What was it like for you before you found Bitcoin? Can you unpack that a little bit more for us? What it was like to use the Lebanese currency, what it was like to use the Canadian loonie, what kind of was going on that made you be like, because most of us spend our whole lives not thinking about money one time.
Yeah.
We get up every single day and work for something that we don't spend any time thinking about, which is insane. The more and more I think about it, that is crazy. But what was that like for you in the beginning before you found Bitcoin?
It is absolutely insane, like you say, and I think once you see it, you cannot unsee it anymore. So my parents valued. They were both teachers, so education was very important to them. And in Lebanon, just like in many other countries, uh, if you're not an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, you're kind of a failure and a shame. You're a shame to the family. I'm exaggerating, but people, like parents, want you to have a good job, a good education, which my parents sacrificed a great bit for me and my brother to do that. And I was living a pretty nice, comfortable life in Beirut. I had a good job. I worked hard, but I had a decent salary at the time. I had a nice car. I had a good life. Like, I wasn't thinking about money. I didn't have a problem making ends meet. So I never had to think about money, right? And unlike in North America, which I later realized when I moved to Canada, I love that in you guys, even when you're starting from a very young age, you think about investing. It's in the culture, the different kinds of vehicles to invest, to save when you start having a job, IRAs, Roth IRAs, 401ks, all these things. You don't have to be a wealthy person to invest in the stock market. Whereas in Lebanon, maybe in other emerging countries, it's only wealthy people who have, let's say, the thinking of investing, and of, even if they're not very, yeah. So um, I guess what I'm going with this is when I moved to Canada, I took a big like my career took a big step back, because I was expecting, to go to the land of opportunities, North America. But then very quickly I realized, like, it was very hard to get a job. So I started working kind of back from scratch, which was depressing. I'm not going to hide, but at the same time, I learned new skills. I worked in a bank, in the call center of a bank, and with small businesses. And I loved that job because I was selling them, obviously, lines of credit, credit cards, stuff like that. But I was not a salesy person. I enjoyed speaking to people and kind of entrepreneurs, and trying to really understand, like, because when somebody tells you something, they're not really always expressing what's really inside, what's the real thought that is inside them. So it was nice to have a chat with people and to kind of figure out what is the best thing or product that this bank has that I could offer them to help their journey. Like, it's really what it was fun to do that. And then when I worked in commercial credit, so the hypocrisy of it all, and maybe the Cantillon effect, which is the wealthier you are, the easier it is for you to get credit. And when you have a project you want to execute, no matter how profitable it might be, if you do not have the financing for it, you're not going to be able to execute it. So if you're not lucky enough to be wealthy or to have grown in generations of wealth, where are you going to get the funding from to execute your brilliant idea? So, and in parallel, I was having to refuse lots of people because they had no personal worth, because there was no guarantee that the bank would be paid their money back if they give the loan out, which is fair. Um, in parallel, I was watching the Federal Reserve and even like the Central Bank of Lebanon just print this money and carry on deficit year after year after year. Which business can afford to do that? None. So this kind of hypocrisy was what started me into the thinking what money is and how unfair it is. um, and then the huge push into Bitcoin. It was two things in 2021. If you guys remember, it was the previous bull market. So Bitcoin was in the news. All the other altcoins were in the news as well. And what was happening in Lebanon was a huge failing of banking, which is still ongoing now. But banks literally closed. People had no access to their money, to their account. I don't know if you know the meme. I love it. It's your money in the bank is not yours, is not money, is not in the bank. So in Lebanon, we had the taste of that. I mean, I was living in Canada back then, but I was obviously very concerned and following the news. So the Lebanese lira has always been pegged to the dollar, which means in Lebanon you don't have to change. You don't have to go to a currency. If you plan to visit Lebanon, you can just bring your dollars and come, because you can pay in dollars and get a change back in Lebanese pounds and vice versa. So it's kind of a one. I think it's the same in many countries in South America as well. But yeah, so the rate, the exchange rate, $1 versus Lebanese pounds, within a few days, a few months, uh, like, it's insane how it fluctuated. So today it costs more than 60 times. You need more than 60 times more Lebanese pounds to get the same amount of dollars. 60. So the dollar did the 60x compared to the lira, which means if your whole savings and income is in the Lebanese pound, you are extremely poor right now. And this is definitely what I remember. It was a shower thought. I was washing my long, luscious black hair. And I remember very well. I was thinking, okay, maybe because of the bull market and the news and Bitcoin and everything, I was like, okay, um, maybe through Bitcoin and crypto, because I was not a maxi back then, maybe through Bitcoin and crypto, I can get back what my government has stolen from me. That was the initial point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
No. That's like,
what's
it's just incredible to hear, dude.
what's amazing is that we started with how fiat creates this imbalance of like global power. Then you talked about the predatory nature of creditors. Credit's just another word for debt. Money you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your money in the bank is not yours. It's not money. It's not in the bank.
I love that. We heard that yesterday. Anyway, so global global imbalance. We've got credit markets that are predatory.
Mm-hmm.
You've got massive inflation runs in one currency.
Yeah, because it sounded like the Lebanese government
Lira.
was printing a lot or something in the recent years.
Was there also another specific pain point that you walked us through there? I got those first three. Was there also a fourth?
Well, the money was blocked. We didn't have access to our money in the banks. It was you could not. It was just a number on a screen.
When was that?
That was in 2020. Started in 2020 all the way through, and today we have unofficial capital controls, which means so. Long story short, Lebanon had a civil war of over approximately 15 to 20 years, which back then $1 got you 3 Lebanese lira. That was in 1970 something.
Okay.
That was the golden age of Lebanon, where it was, you'd see all the celebrities, all the stars coming, and all the parties, it's still a beautiful country. But that was the first hyper devaluation of the Lebanese pound that happened in 1990, early 1990. So I was too young to learn back then. I remember my parents, being very, very worried. We used to buy gallons of oil of gas because the price would fluctuate wildly from day to day. Oh yeah, the central bank was printing a lot of money because they wanted to rebuild the country after the war. So what they did, in a very diabolical, very smart way, the head of the central bank, because there's a large Lebanese diaspora all over the world, Brazil, in the States, in Canada, in Australia, in Africa, and people in general, they do well when they're doctors, they're engineers, and so because the country needed dollars, we do not print dollars. The country needed to increase its amount of foreign reserves, so they started to give out very high interest rates on deposits in US dollars, which back then was up to 5 to 6%, which back then was much higher than the actual T-bill interest rate. So that doesn't make sense. But I didn't understand money back then. So what happened is that lots of successful Lebanese people send their money back home and put their money in the banks, and it was a Ponzi scheme up until the Ponzi was no longer sustainable, and this is when the banks closed. I don't know if you've seen. You can look it up if you want. It's insane. People would go inside the banks with guns. They would literally rob. They would rob themselves. They would go with banks and ask for their own money. You know.
Oh, they would rob themselves. They would go into a bank with a gun and rob their own account.
I mean, but if you just rewind that a little bit, the bank was robbing them.
Yes.
So
yes.
what does that make them? I mean, they're policing the. I mean, how?
Dude, that's insane. That's insane. So
the common thread here for me though is like we always talk about how like there's this inverse relationship between pain, how much pain you're in, and the extent to which you are willing to take action against the thing that's causing you that pain. The more pain you're in, the more action you're going to take, right? And that's why we see countries like I'm assuming that if you look at the adoption rate of Bitcoin among Lebanese people, it may very well be higher than the adoption rate of Americans.
This is something that surprised me, and when I moved back here, because I moved back as a Bitcoin maxi. I started my own business of professionally orange pilling people, just like what you guys are doing, explaining maybe things that people don't think about usually, which is what is money, what makes something money, why is money broken, fiat, all these things. And I think specifically in Lebanon, because the country had seen so much, so they had seen the spectacular collapse of their savings. Imagine being retiring next year in 2020, and your retirement account is in Lebanese pounds, and suddenly you have 60 times less this amount. So what is my retirement looking like? It sucks. So this happened. Obviously, COVID happened. There was also a huge explosion in the port of Lebanon, which is the largest non-nuclear explosion apparently in the world ever. So like all of these things on one on top on the other, there were shortages in gas, in electricity. So all this made the Lebanese people, most of them, they didn't really have it in them to study, even though they had a lot of pain. I don't think they had enough bandwidth to try to delve into what Bitcoin is, because it takes, it takes time to kind of understand, and maybe some of them bought some altcoins and they got drugged. So they, even maybe crypto is not something that most Lebanese people are ready to accept today, because their mind is elsewhere. Their mind is trying to make ends meet. And this is a bleak picture, but at the same time and in parallel, in the same country, you have people that if you go out, the bars are full, the restaurants are full. I think mainly for two reasons: because of the Lebanese diaspora, people visiting back home, people sending money back to their families. I send money to my younger brother so he can go to school, so he can get a car, so he can enjoy life. And also because Lebanese people are big entrepreneurs. Since the country doesn't provide much, the state doesn't provide you with much, you have to kind of, the private sector is very important because you need to get things done yourself. And there is a decent amount of wealth also coming maybe through other channels, less kosher. But these two very different realities coexist, and you see it very clearly if you go out. Like Lebanon is fun to go out with, but you have to have the means to be able to do that.
They basically vacuumed up all the dollars and then
Yeah.
said, whoops, we're out of business now.
Yeah.
They traded all their currency for all the dollars they could get their hands on and then shut down.
It's insane. It is insane. And it's not like the Lebanese people didn't just sat back and didn't do anything. Everybody took to the street.
Yeah.
But what do you like? What can you do? Sadly, you can't do anything if the police is all around, if everything is barricaded. I'm sorry, it's sad, but you cannot do anything. You have to change things from within, and this is why I love this quote by Friedrich Hayek, the Austrian economic. I think in the 80s he said that you cannot take money out of the hand of government by force. You have to find a sly roundabout way.
Yes.
He said that in 1980, and look at us today. I think Bitcoin is that sly roundabout way to at least maybe not take the money out of the hand of the government, but to keep them honest.
We're definitely siphoning power away slowly.
Yes.
Through the side door.
Yeah.
It's like nobody. That's part of the genius of the protocol.
Yes. And I want to talk about that, but before we move to like Bitcoin, I just want to try to understand truly what's going on here, because you talked about a civil war in Lebanon for 15 to 20 years that destroyed the country, and the government decided to paper over the problem by printing its own currency, and also a clever scheme by which they offer better rates for US dollars in Lebanon than you can get in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And they hoover up all this cash and they print all their own.
Yep.
And you get to a point where if you were born in 1950 and you worked your butt off in Lebanon as an entrepreneur, getting not a thing from the gouvernement, and it gets to 2020 as a 70-year-old, man, you have 6 million lira lined up for your retirement, and you go to look at it and it turns out it only has 100,000 lira worth of purchasing power now. That would be devastation.
You just got rug pulled by your own country.
Yeah, 6 million in purchasing power goes down to 100,000 in purchasing power, and you can't even get your own money if you wanted it. You got to go take your 70-year-old butt down to the bank with a gun and rob your own self at gunpoint
What's
just to
going
make a
on?
withdrawal. I mean, I'm in the streets at that point.
Yeah.
I'm in the streets too. I'm like, where's my money at?
Yeah, what is going
Where's
on
my
here?
money at?
Yeah.
So you found, I mean, that is insane, by the way. And Americans don't get that it's happening to us as well, just so much slower
Well,
Yeah.
that we can tolerate it.
Oliver made the point yesterday of he likes to tell the stories of these extreme, painful examples, because here, you know, in the U.S. or in any country that hasn't been through that kind of pain, financial pain, it's you make the mistake of thinking, well, that will never be us, and it's all or nothing. It's either that or it's good. But it's actually, you know, it gets incrementally worse and worse and worse and worse, even though it's happening 2, 3, 7% a year for us.
Yeah, exactly. So if it's bad at this level, you can take it back to where it is in America and go, well, it's still bad here.
Still bad.
We still need something better. So something better, well, it's Bitcoin. How did you find, you know, where did you first hear about Bitcoin?
So yeah, it was again 2021. It was all over the legacy media. I've always been a big fan of Twitter and user of Twitter, so I was also following these accounts. So it was just more in the conversation, and I started to invest as much as I could. And then as I went, and also I bought other altcoins, and then along the way I started to learn more about money and about Bitcoin and why Bitcoin, not crypto. And it's been a journey. I've learned so much. I've consumed so much content. Thanks to, you guys had not started the channel back then, but thanks to people like you who felt that they had something to say. And obviously you have, you have the OG voices in the Bitcoin world. You have Lynn Alden, you have Jeff Booth, you have Robert Breedlove, you have all these people. Saifuddin Ammous, I read his book as well. But people are so different. Then you don't have to be super famous person to talk about Bitcoin. Like, and I love to see that. I see like very young people who usually in their early 20s don't necessarily think about money. At this age, that's not what you're really thinking of. You're kind of making mistakes and enjoying your life. But I see people waking up to this and realizing how the dollar is losing value. So yeah, for me, it was a lot of learning, a lot of content consuming, and obviously my mind was blown. Especially because I had been subjected to this pain that I've described. I guess it was much easier for me to at least be willing to have an open mind, because this is all it takes. And having lived in Canada, a place where I was safe, there was no wars, whatever money I had in the bank, I could use. Although, try to go to the counter and ask for $10,000, like in cash. Why do you need that money, sir? What is it? What is it going to be used for? Uh, so, having lived in Canada, I was able kind of to see Bitcoin also as a protection against debasement, against the slow, steady debasement. And that debasement rate increased a lot during COVID because of the money printing. You see, like how everything is linked together. And I remember reading the news. They never mentioned in the legacy media that this huge inflation was linked to money printing. They would always mention the war in Ukraine. They would always mention the supply chain blocks because of COVID. And had I not known what I knew then, I would have naively believed everything I was seeing. But because I had understood that inflation is a purely monetary phenomenon, I was able to kind of disconnect and remove myself from whatever matrix and be able to think for myself and slowly grow my Bitcoin conviction. And it takes time, for sure. Everyone is at a different stage. Um, but yeah, for me, it was all these things linked together. And today, owning Bitcoin is the least risky thing that you can do to protect yourself, your family, your friends' purchasing power, as long as you make sure that you custody it well, as long as you know what you're doing. Because imagine getting to hold Bitcoin and then losing it because you left it on an exchange and the exchange blew up. Remember Celsius, remember FTX, remember all these centralized exchanges that also rug pulled a lot of people.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like not your money in the bank is not yours. It's not money. It's not in the bank. It's like your sats on an exchange are not yours. They're not sats, and they might be on the exchange, but they might not be. They
They
might
are
not
on
be
an exchange that somebody else owns, but they are. That part's true.
unless they're not. Unless the exchange isn't showing you their proof of reserves. Like I think River publishes their proof of reserves, but I don't think So it just depends. It's crazy.
You really do have to know what you're doing. I mean, that's for sure.
But it's not so complicated to know what you're doing,
No,
right?
it's not. No, it's not.
Where did you stack your first sats? When did you realize you wanted them to be something you controlled? And how did you get them from where you bought them to where you could control them?
Yeah, take us through that process for you.
So I'm hugely indebted to the Bitcoin toxic maxis on Twitter, who maybe initially might not come across as very friendly, because they use all these words and they're kind of mean, but they kind of shake you, and at least they shook me and that made me reconsider what I was doing. So I started buying on a Canadian exchange, which is very cool. It's called ShakePay, and every day you can shake your phone, and they give you a tiny amount of sats, but it's pretty cool. So I started buying there, and then, if you believe it or not, I moved my funds to Celsius because I was greedy, because because it wasn't this much. It wasn't such a large amount that I could just stack, and I was just, a dollar cost averaging, and I wanted my stack to grow. I wanted the interest. And so I parked it in Celsius for, I think, a couple of months. And my guardian angels in heaven, thank you so much, because I removed the funds out of Celsius a few days before they halted withdrawals. So I could have
Wow.
also been rug pulled. Yeah. So it's all these voices saying, if you keep Bitcoin on an exchange, it's like keeping money in your bank account. It is yours, but supposedly it's a promise that it will be yours when you ask for it. The fact that my money was not accessible to me also for sure played a role. And if I can be self-sovereign, if I can buy a little device, maybe not go out to the restaurant and have a few drinks that night, buy my device, write my 12 or 24 words, keep them safe, not really talk about it or make sure who comes into my house, or who, that's it. It's not so hard. It's simple, but it's not easy to do initially. But I guess you have to be responsible enough to accept that if you lose it, it's on me this time.
Yeah.
So, what is it like now that you have found Bitcoin and have learned about Bitcoin? You're saving, you're stacking sats. What's it like for you now?
I always think so. Moving back from Canada to Lebanon was not very easy, despite the good things about it. So the fact that I have Bitcoin gives me hope. Gives me, first of all, hope for the future in general, for everyone, like for every person who does not have to bow their head to the fiat cartels, who can be self-sovereign, who can protect, because money is what you convert the fruits of your labor and your time and your energy. This is what you convert it to. You convert it to money because you want to be able to spend this fruit, this labor, this energy, and this time later in the future. So if I were to sell all of my Bitcoin today for whatever reason, I've made. I've gained a lot. I've almost tripled whatever cent I put in, I've almost tripled it. So this gives me security if I ever have to. Obviously, I don't want to, uh, um, but yeah, Bitcoin gives me hope, and to see all these like I saw Jeff Booth is one of my favorite people, and when I saw him on your show. By the way, it was amazing, and kudos to you guys because you are hilarious, and Jeff Booth he's kind of a he's on the 40th floor, like maybe we're on the ground or second floor, right? He's so beyond, and he's generous with his time, and he gives all, he talks about all, I mean, all the things he say, that you cannot change a system from through within the system. The state of the natural state of the market is deflationary. But you guys cracked him up. Like, he was also serious, but he had a really good time, I felt, on your show. So kudos to you for that.
That really is touching to hear. That's some really good feel good feedback for me to hear.
Oh man,
Genuine.
Yeah.
You are hilarious, and this is why I wanted. I really was excited to come on your show, because also being a Bitcoiner can be lonely sometimes. If your friends and family are not really into it, you might seem like a
Yes.
crazy person. So it's always nice to congregate between crazy people together.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we belong. We belong. It feels so wonderful to belong. And I can identify with how you feel, because I went a year blabbing to everyone around me who didn't ask for it. And everybody brings their own angle to it, their own story to it. And Michel, yours is so rich and Bitcoin is so rich as well, that there's just no way we're going to fit it all into a single chat about sats. So we ask each of our guests if they would be willing to come back on in 9 months to give us an update on their Bitcoin baby. Would you be willing to do that for us, Michel?
Oh, hell yeah, with pleasure.
With extreme prejudice, he will return.
Put a little spice on that.
Yes, with ultimate and blazing justice, Michel will reappear.
Yes.
So let's recap our convo or our chat here with Michel. Michel, born and bred in Beirut. He watched the Lebanese lira get less and less and less growing up. So he goes to Canada at the age of 35, kind of has to reboot his career in the call center of a bank. And what did he do? He was selling lines of credit to entrepreneurs in Canada, kind of an enjoyable aspect for him, likes that education, likes that one-on-one teaching aspect, which we see later when he starts his own kind of professional orange pilling gig back there in Lebanon. But ultimately, in this world of credit and of banks, Michel's able to see, when he compares that with his childhood, that something ain't right here. Most of us go through our life working as hard as we can for something we never think about. But Michel's like, hold up, gets a little bit of a red pill, blue pill moment here and says, I don't know if this is actually how things should be. Here comes 2020. The Lebanese government has basically run a Ponzi scheme since its civil war to try to vacuum up US dollars from Lebanese citizens abroad by offering them rates on their cash that they simply can't deliver on, because it's more than you can get from the US itself. And once the Lebanese gouvernement has gotten all the cash they need and printed their own currency to the point where now it's worth 1/60th of what it was, oof, they're like, and never mind, guys, bye. You can't get any of your own money. Banks are closed, pandemic, supply chain, any reason other than us is the reason why you're in pain, right? Don't look at us. It's not us doing all this monetary nonsense. It's all these other things. You got some nice 70-year-old Lebanese dude with a distinguished looking face and a daggum blazer on that is
Good
nicely
looking.
tailored.
Good looking guy.
But kind of old the blazer is, but the blazer's well taken care of. And he got 6 million lira for his retirement. Now he only got 100 grand to spend. He's going to go down to the bank with his gat and be like, I'd like to make a withdrawal from my own account.
Yeah.
You know, stick them up. This is a robbery. I really only want my own money.
Yeah.
Right? So, and people are in the streets. It's madness. People have been absolutely decimated by the government's choices. They have no say in what the government does. And Michel says, well, how can I protect myself from this devastation? Well, it's Bitcoin. And unfortunately, for a little while there, it was also crypto. And just like, I think, number 26, Freddie, and number 20, Andy, Michel went down into the crypto casino, threw some dice, spun some wheels, likely got wrecked, said, never mind, let's go Bitcoin only. Let me put some Bitcoin with Celsius, which was like Mount Gox all over again. Don't put your Bitcoin on an exchange because it's just like having your Lebanese lira in a bank, dude. You can't trust it. Your money in the bank is not yours. It's not money. It's not in the bank. Somehow, Michel's guardian angels tap him on the shoulder, say, get that Bitcoin out of there. And he manages to get it out of Celsius hours or days before they say, never mind, no more withdrawals. And now he has returned from Montreal in Canada to Beirut. He is doing his thing there. And he is loving his life because he's full of hope. Bitcoin gives him hope. Bitcoin gives him optimism. Bitcoin gives him what he needs.
Me too.
To keep rolling, dude. Yeah. I love it. So, Michel, we're going to make you an offer here in exchange for your time. But before we do,
we're going to take a little break. Yeah, we got black bean today. I think you chose black bean.
And real quick, I made a little mental note here. I need to just like I'm going to be replacing my pronunciation of the word scourge to scourge from number 58, Amanda. I'm going to mentally flip over from hummus to hummus.
Hummus.
What?
It's hummus.
Hummus.
So you guys say hummus?
You're saying like hummus.
Yeah, you say it very well. Oh my god, you look like an Arab now with the sunglasses and the beard. Be careful.
We're gonna come visit you in Beirut.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to.
So let's try some of this hummus.
All right, let's go.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Very jealous right now.
This is really good. Now, do they make hummus with other beans?
You try to say it.
Hummus.
It's perfect.
It's perfect?
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to be like, all right, and our lead sponsor is Ithaca Hummus. Michel, dude, I got to tell you, man, I crave authenticity, dude.
Yeah.
I crave authenticity. And I'm a language person, too. So when I hear something pronounced correctly in its mother tongue, I want that so badly for myself, right? That's why I say sauna instead of sauna, because
annoying.
I know how they say it in Finland, and I'm not gonna do some dirty American. Let me hop in the sauna with my bathing suit on as a warm up for my workout. Get out of here, okay?
Poor favor, senorita.
Yeah, we don't need it. We don't need that. I want to be authentic in the information I deliver on this show. I want to be authentic with how I handle other cultures, other languages. So yeah, I want to rip on that hummus.
All right, let's get to the offer here.
Let's get to the offer.
So you got $50. Sounds like you've seen the show. You know the drill. $50, $50 worth of Bitcoin. Let's see what we got back here. What are we using? Ooh,
We only have
shoot.
one choice, and it's Simple Steve's UTX Oracle.
We're using the UTX Oracle now, so I'm going to take
50.
hold on. Okay, I'm going to take 50,
Right?
and I'm going to divide that
Yep.
by 102,
Mm-hmm.
604.
Absolutely pumping.
All right, and then I'm going to multiply that by 100 million.
Yep.
Because there's 100 million Satoshis in every Bitcoin.
Okay. So.
All right, so you got 48,731, 48,731 Bitcoin, or $50,
Or
50 USD.
50 of these guys.
I'll definitely take the sats. Thank you guys. You are very
Yes,
generous.
sir.
Knew that was coming.
Let's go. Give him the sats. Give him the Satoshis.
Yeah.
Hummus. I might have it right now. It's gonna drift over time, Michel. You're gonna be listening. I'm like, yeah, or at least you think I and they're like, that's not how you say it. Like, no, Michel said that's how you say it.
Yeah.
It's like it's gonna deteriorate and degrade like the Lebanese lira, dude.
No, that's Michel's. I put a little extra spin on it,
Michel
but that's
said it.
Michel's.
My friend in Beirut said that's how you say it. So don't come telling me I'm not doing it right.
Yeah.
All right. So, Michel, you bring our scoreboard to 60. Count them.
60.
Nice even number for you there, Dad. 60 guests who have stacked the sats with us here on the show, along with 5 who need a little bit more time.
When you say dad, are you literally talking to Monty?
I'm talking to my dad, number 18, Monty, because he loves round numbers the same way I love multiples of 9.
Got it.
So let's see here. This is the part of the show where we ask you Satillionaires for your value in exchange for ours. Smash the subscribe button. Make sure you're among the first 999 plus 1 for your chance to win 1 million sats, okay? Not 48,731. 1 million. You'll also
$1,000.
That's you'll also unlock our live show Friday mornings at 10 a.m. It's going to be 5 p in Beirut for Michel. He's going to be in the chat chatting about sats while he's getting his long, luscious locks ready for the Lebanese ladies in the nightclubs. Like that.
That's a little voice warm up right
My
there.
guy is looking younger than me.
Yeah, I know.
And we're on the road to number 99. Kristen, the beloved, my wife. Arwen to my Aragorn. That's the big fat showdown with the end boss where I'm going to ask her to let me yeet everything into Bitcoin.
Oh, man.
So send us all your ladies, Lebanese or not, so that we can practice, we can train like Rocky IV, pushing that cart up the mountainside.
Yep.
Wouldn't be a bad idea if you want to go ahead and rip that Sat Chats playlist on YouTube. Just let it fly because we do need them watchers.
On the phone this morning, I was taking a walk.
Yeah.
We were talking, and you said that what was it? 2x speed?
You can watch Sat Chats on 2x because I know you degenerates just got to get your information faster than normal. And YouTube will still give us credit for 1x. So if we have an hour-long talk with Michel and you watch it on 2x, even though it takes you 30 minutes to watch it, we get 1 hour of watch time.
Oh, so you could double it up.
So you could speed level Sat Chats, and we'll vacuum up all your watch hours like we're the Lebanese government giving you a deal on your US dollars. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that will help us to unlock all the different things we want to unlock. Okay, Sat Chats is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Also, our guests' views and good looks that defy his age are his own. We will see you tomorrow, Satillionaires. Bye-bye.